My ex's dad called me her pet project at a gala, and my ex laughed along like I was a joke. I left mid-dessert. 2 years later, I bought out his company quietly, legally, completely. He showed up begging. I didn't offer him a seat. I knew I didn't belong the second we stepped into the ballroom. It wasn't the chandelier or the string quartet or even the $300 plate menu. It was the way people looked at me, like Cambria's accessory, not her partner. I straightened my tie and smiled anyway. I'd gotten used to feeling out of place in her world. My name's Dalton. I'm 28. I live in Chicago and work as a tech consultant for a mid-sized firm. It's not glamorous, but it's stable. Honest. That night, though, I realized it didn't count for much. The charity gala was for some arts endowment. Cambria's dad, Warren, was on the board, and she practically begged me to come. Just make it through tonight, she'd said in the car. You can finally meet the people I grew up around. I should have known that was code for don't embarrass me. We were halfway through dinner when it happened. A round table of venture capitalists, all with champagne flutes and cufflinks worth more than my car, were swapping stories about mergers. Warren leaned back and gestured toward me. This is Dalton, he said, smirking. Cambria's pet project. He dabbles in consulting, mostly the safe stuff, you know. Corporate tech, babysitting. Laughter. Actual laughter. Like I just tripped on stage. I looked at Cambria, expecting, I don't even know, a small defense, a quick he's being modest. But she laughed, too. Not loud, but enough to twist the knife. Dad, she said, giggling, don't make him sound like he works at Geek Squad. Warren gave her a proud nod, the kind I'd seen him give her after she crushed a business pitch. That silent little attagirl. I sat there with my mouth full of half-chewed filet mignon and the taste of metal. I didn't argue. I didn't say a word. I just waited until dessert came out, excused myself to the bathroom, and never came back. Outside, the cold hit harder than expected. I walked 3 blocks to the L train in that overpriced suit, my dress shoes clicking too loudly on the sidewalk. They saw me as a placeholder, a warm body with potential but no pedigree. Fine. Let them laugh. I was done waiting for their approval. They'd just lit the fire I didn't know I needed. Mason didn't even ask questions when I showed up at his door just before midnight. Just opened the door, took one look at my face, and handed me a beer. Tell me you didn't hit someone, he said, stepping aside so I could walk in. No, but I probably should have, I muttered, dropping onto his couch. The cheap leather squeaked under me. His place always smelled faintly like burnt coffee and ambition. Mason and I met back in college. He went into private equity straight out of undergrad and made more money by 25 than most people saw in a lifetime. He also knew every time I hit a dead end in life, and tonight was no different. I told him about the gala, the laughter, the look on Cambria's face when she sided with her father. Mason listened, nodding slowly, then stood and grabbed a bottle of bourbon from the kitchen. He poured 2 glasses. No ice. You know, he said, handing me a glass. I've been waiting for you to get pissed off enough to do something. I raised an eyebrow. Something like what? Like stop acting like a goddamn corporate hamster and start building something of your own. We talked for hours about all the startups we'd watched crash and rise, the founders who cashed out before 30, the ones who failed and tried again anyway. Mason had contacts. Real ones. CEOs, engineers, product guys. I had ideas and, surprisingly, enough savings for a risky play or two. Then, around 3 in the morning, there was a knock on the door. Mason opened it to find my little brother, Nolan, holding a box full of folders and post-it notes. Thought you'd be here, Nolan said, dropping the box on the coffee table. You sounded weird on the phone earlier. Figured I'd bring you the list. The list? I asked. Startups worth watching, he said. And a 3-year plan. If you're really ready to stop playing safe. Nolan was only 22 but smarter than both of us combined. He interned at a think tank and read market reports for fun. I flipped open one of the folders and saw company valuations, burn rates, founders' backgrounds. He had done the work. That night, we didn't sleep. We mapped out an aggressive plan, startup investments, angel deals, smart flips. High risk, but higher reward. I could feel something shifting in me, like the gears finally clicked. By sunrise, I looked at Mason and Nolan and said, tomorrow, I'm ending it with Cambria. I'm done being her background character. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive. Not angry, not humiliated, driven. Cambria answered the door wearing one of my hoodies, the one she always called embarrassingly soft. She looked surprised to see me standing there that early, holding nothing but my keys. Dalton? She blinked, brushing her hair behind her ear. Are you okay? Yeah, I said, stepping past her. I just need to talk. She closed the door behind me slowly, like she sensed what was coming. The apartment smelled like lavender and designer candles. Hers, not mine. I'd lived here too, technically, but it had never felt like home. She followed me into the living room and sat on the edge of the couch, hugging her knees. If this is about last night. It is, I cut in. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. Your dad humiliated me. You joined in. And it wasn't the first time. She rolled her eyes, but there was nervous energy in the way she pulled at her sleeve. Dalton, come on. He jokes like that with everyone. He didn't mean anything by it. You laughed. She hesitated. I took a step closer. You didn't just laugh. You looked right at him, like you were proud to be on his side. Like you wanted his approval more than you respected me. Her mouth opened, then closed. She started to say something, but I held up a hand. I'm not asking for an apology, I said. I just came to tell you I'm done. Done. Her face twisted. Dalton, what are you even saying? I'm saying I'm out. Of this. Of us. She stood up fast. Wait. No. You're taking this too personally. I didn't mean to. I was just nervous, okay? She was scrambling, like she always did when she felt control slipping. Tears welled up, but I didn't buy it. Not this time. I've spent years trying to be good enough for your world, I said quietly. Turns out, I don't need to be. I just need to build my own. That afternoon, I wired every cent of my savings into an early-stage AI startup Nolan had vetted. No guarantees, just potential. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel stuck. I felt free. 2 years. That's how long it took. In 24 months, I went from a middle-tier consultant with polite ideas and a forgettable LinkedIn profile to someone venture capital groups started inviting to the table, not as a tag-along, but as a player. It started with that first AI startup. We flipped it in 8 months for double the valuation. Not earth-shattering money, but it was momentum. Then came a logistics automation tool out of Austin. Then a healthcare SaaS company that looked shaky on the outside but had solid bones. That one was my first big exit. 7 times return in under a year. Mason and Nolan helped scale my instincts into a real system. We created a small fund, scrappy and quiet. We didn't chase headlines. We chased undervalued potential and founders with teeth. I bought into a software firm in San Jose that was tanking hard. Everyone else had written it off. I didn't. I saw the upside in the patents they were sitting on. It was a long game, but I knew what I was doing now. And while we were climbing, Warren's empire was cracking. The same man who called me a babysitter in a tailored suit was now dodging questions from the SEC. His fund, once one of the most respected in tech investment circles, was being dragged through investigations about insider trading and questionable acquisitions. Half his staff had already jumped ship. His name wasn't whispered at galas anymore. It was muttered in back offices with raised eyebrows. One afternoon, I got a LinkedIn request from Cambria. No message. Just a soft ping in my inbox. I stared at it for a moment before clicking ignore. A few days later, she sent another message. Hey stranger. It's been a while. Would love to catch up sometime. I didn't answer. She was working in marketing now, contract jobs mostly. I'd heard through a mutual friend that the trust fund had shrunk and the invites to luxury events had dried up. She was struggling, but too proud to admit it. Me? I had no time for that. We were preparing to launch our second fund. Bigger, bolder. The kind of fund people used to laugh at me for even dreaming about. Warren's world was shrinking. Mine was expanding. She showed up in person this time. I was in the middle of reviewing pitch decks when my assistant poked her head into my office. There's someone here to see you. Says her name is Cambria. I didn't look up right away. Just kept flipping through the slides. Should I tell her you're busy? I paused, then sighed. Send her in. Cambria walked in like she still belonged in every room. Same perfect posture, same carefully styled waves, same designer coat. But the confidence didn't reach her eyes. There were cracks now. I could see them even before she spoke. Nice place, she said, glancing around at the exposed brick and sleek glass conference table. It suits you. I nodded, kept my tone even. Didn't think LinkedIn DMs were working, so you decided to try walk-ins? She gave a soft laugh, but it didn't land. Look, I know it's been a while. I wasn't sure how to reach out. So you brought a pitch deck? That caught her off guard. Her lips parted slightly, then closed again. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. It's a VR startup, she said, placing it on my desk like an offering. I'm part of the founding team. We're building immersive learning environments, virtual classrooms, corporate training, stuff like that. It's early, but we've got traction. I flipped it open. The logo looked decent. The product roadmap was buzzword heavy but passable. Let me guess, I said, not looking up. Tied to your father's investment group? She flinched. Just a tiny twitch in her jaw, but it was enough. It's affiliated, she admitted. But the idea is mine. I closed the folder and leaned back. Cambria, let's not pretend this is about the tech. I believe in the product, she insisted. But yes, I also thought maybe we could reconnect. There it was. Business wrapped in nostalgia. She even did that half-smile thing she used to use when we first started dating, like she was opening a door and daring me to step through. I didn't. Good luck with the pitch, I said, standing up. But my fund doesn't partner with anything connected to Warren. Her face dropped. She stood too, straightening her coat. You don't even want to hear the full presentation? I already did. A week later, I got an email from Warren himself. Dalton, I know we've had our differences, but there's an opportunity one think you'd be wise not to miss. One last ride. Let me know if you're ready to talk like men. No term sheet. No metrics. Just pride and desperation hiding behind flowery language. I hit archive and poured myself a coffee. Some doors don't deserve to be reopened, no matter how many people start knocking. I found out about Warren's collapse over breakfast. It was a Tuesday. Quiet morning. Just me, a protein bar, and a muted finance podcast in the background. Then my phone buzzed with a CNBC alert. Caldwell Venture Group hit with class action over shell company fraud allegations. I nearly choked on my coffee. The article laid it out clean. Investors were suing. SEC digging deeper. Anonymous whistleblowers. Shell companies, shadow investments, cooked books, the kind of ugly you can't power walk away from with a PR firm and a tailored suit. That afternoon, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years, Eliza Caldwell, Warren's ex-wife. It was at a gallery event downtown. She approached me near the wine bar, holding a glass of something red and expensive. Her hair was shorter now, sharper. Her whole presence was more grounded than I remembered. Dalton, she said, didn't expect to see you here. Eliza, you look well, I said cautiously. I'm not, she replied, matter of fact. But I'm freer than I've ever been. We found a quiet corner. She talked, and I listened. Turns out she had been the one left to clean up the mess Warren left behind. The debts. The partners he ghosted. The properties he siphoned funds through. She'd seen it all, not as a co-conspirator, but as someone kept in the dark until the lights flickered off. Warren thought no one would notice, she said. He built so many layers between himself and the paper trail, he thought he was untouchable. I raised an eyebrow. But you found something. She reached into her handbag and pulled out a small leather folder. Inside, copies of wire transfers, LLC registrations, offshore banking trails. Names I recognized, hidden in places I hadn't thought to look. Why are you giving this to me? I asked. Eliza took a sip of her wine and looked me dead in the eye. Because you got out before the rot spread. And because someone needs to use this right. She paused. Don't burn him out of spite. Burn him smart. I took the folder home and spread everything across my desk that night. Warren hadn't just cut corners. He built his empire on sand, propped up by vanity, arrogance, and other people's money. He thought he was playing chess. But now I had the board. We moved fast. By we, I mean me, Mason, and Nolan, the same crew that sat on Mason's floor 2 years ago building a plan off napkin math and startup buzzwords. Now we were operating like a black ops investment firm. The documents Eliza gave me weren't just incriminating. They were a treasure map. Warren hadn't just been shady. He'd stashed assets in forgotten corners of the tech world. Real assets. Real potential. The kind of distressed gold that smart money could turn into empires. Our approach was surgical. Quiet acquisitions. Strategic legal nudges. We didn't need the courts to destroy him. We needed his assets to bleed just enough to make him sell, and sell low. We used holding companies. Fake LLCs with generic names. Consultants with fake smiles. No one saw my name attached to anything. Not at first. We bought out minority shareholders. We refinanced properties. We absorbed underfunded teams that used to belong to Warren's incubators. Every piece of his portfolio that wasn't actively under litigation, we snagged it, pennies on the dollar. When one of his biotech projects ran out of runway, we swooped in, covered payroll, and rebranded it under our fund. When an AI startup he'd buried under bad PR was about to go under, Nolan showed them the numbers, Mason made the call, and I signed the wire. 45 days later, it tripled in value. I didn't need to destroy Warren to win. I just needed to take everything he'd built and do it better. We never leaked anything. We never gloated. When we showed the documents to key stakeholders, it wasn't revenge, it was risk assessment. You deserve to know what your partner's been hiding, we said. That was enough to flip the last few holdouts. The day my name was added to the board of one of Warren's most prized tech properties, the one he bragged about for years as my crown jewel, I didn't pop champagne. I took a long walk downtown and let the silence hit me. This wasn't about getting even anymore. It was about legacy. He mocked me for playing small. Now I was the one buying his silence, not with fear, but with leverage. Warren's empire didn't burn. It changed owners. Legally. Quietly. Completely. And I wasn't the kid from the Gala anymore. I was the guy people whispered about in boardrooms. The one who took down the king without firing a shot. He showed up without an appointment. Of course he did. Warren Caldwell walked into my new downtown office like he still owned something. He didn't. Not anymore. His tailored suit couldn't hide the weight he'd lost or the bags under his eyes. The man who once controlled billions now looked like he was auditioning for sympathy he'd never earned. Dalton, he said, forcing a smile. You've done well. I didn't offer him a seat. He looked around slowly, probably recognizing the floor plan. This used to be one of his properties before the paperwork stopped carrying his name. You win, he said finally. Happy. This was never a game, I replied. You made it one. You lost. He stepped closer. Look, I know we had our differences, but I'm asking you, man to man, to let me back in. Just one board seat. Just a sliver of equity. I can still bring value. No, I said plainly. His face twisted. You think this will last forever? These markets change. You're riding a wave. I built the wave. He didn't have a comeback for that. Just clenched his jaw and muttered something under his breath before turning to leave. Then came the message from Cambria. It was short, almost thoughtful. I saw the news. About the fund. About my dad. I guess I just wanted to say, thank you. You were right. I didn't respect what I had until it was gone. She didn't ask for money. Or a meeting. Just acknowledgement. I stared at it for a moment, then archived it without replying. That night, I stood on the rooftop of the building that now bore my firm's name. Below, the city buzzed. Inside, the launch party was in full swing, laughter, music, the sound of glasses clinking. The people there? My people. Real friends. Chosen family. Mason was by the bar, pretending to know something about white wine. Nolan was already deep in conversation with the founder I just funded. My mom and dad had flown in from Wisconsin. They didn't always understand what I did, but they showed up, and that mattered. I didn't make a toast. I didn't need to. The celebration wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about knowing I had earned it. I'd been the outsider. I'd been laughed at, overlooked, dismissed. But now? Now I stood at the top, not out of spite, but because I refused to stay where they left me. And I wasn't going back.